training camp special. It is day 2 of pads here in beautiful Costa Mesa, California. Southern California can't beat the weather. Another sunny day as we get a look once again as we get closer to the real thing. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Amber Theo Harris along with Eric Allen. Jason Horowitz kicks it up with us, the voice of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, what, in your third year?
Third season, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Devontae and I are tracking the same time.
Oh, well, exact same time, but you're not making quite the same money, a little bit different in contract.
I don't know about that.
We've heard rumors.
You didn't see the residuals for receiver? Come on.
Oh, yes, that's right. Big appearance there, that's for sure. I know everybody's talking about the receivers, but this is going to be a ground and pound kind of a team. This is AP's team. He wants to run the football. Josh Jacobs is now a Green Bay Packer. Zamir White is going to get an opportunity along with Alexander Madison as well. They got a young rookie in there. Tell me what you think first about Zamir White, what they must have seen at the end of last season when Josh Jacobs was hurt. In your opinion, did that change the tide for Zamir White?
Well, I want to go back to what you just brought up. This is my third year. Remember, my first broadcast as the play-by-play announcer for the Raiders was the Hall of Fame game. And if you remember in Canton, Ohio, what was the storyline coming out of that was, well, they're going to trade Josh Jacobs, right? They didn't get the contract and all of those things. They hadn't picked up his fifth-year option. They played him in the first quarter, and then obviously they weren't trading him, and he became the NFL's leading rusher. But there was talk in that camp about what Zamir White could do, and that was 2 years ago. And last year he became one of the greats in terms of first 2 career starts, and he was, if you just take the last 4 games last year, it's on pace for a 1,600-yard rushing season. So he is a guy who's bulked up. He can carry a workload, but he's never really had to do that because at Georgia they didn't do that. They had all kinds of guys, and you bring in Alexander Madison, who has been in this role before. He was behind Dalvin Cook. But you mentioned the rookie. There is so much talk about Dylan Laube, the 6th-round pick out of New Hampshire, and he's been running with the ones during training camp. He's a guy, there's a lot of excitement for a mismatch. We were talking about this yesterday during practice. There's a lot of reason to be excited about what Dylan Laube could do in this offense.
Yeah, I think so too, but as you know, in our game we play now today, you're going to have multiple backs.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no one team anymore that just has that one
and they all
guy.
have to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yes.
And that could be a huge asset to get you on the football field, versatility. So what do you see? How do you see this working out? Amir Abdullah's still here, third down back. How do you see the ball being kind of put in one guy on first down, second down, third down? How do you see that going?
Well, I know you guys talked about the fact that Luke Getsy in Chicago as an offensive coordinator, like, nobody was a bell cow, right? David Montgomery got hurt a couple years ago, and then he goes to Detroit. They went through a bunch of different running backs last year with some injuries, too. So I don't necessarily know what his plan was going into the year versus what. I still think Zamir White's the main guy, right? Yeah. I think the idea is for Zamir White to be what he was in Kansas City last year, right? Ended games. He gained over 140 yards. I think that would be the goal, and then you get mismatches. The other part to this, though, too, is like, the offense has got to get moving, right? Yeah. Everything being written about training camp so far, and pads finally came on Tuesday, but the offense has got to get up to speed, and part of that is, can we get the offensive line healthy and all of those things? But I still think Zamir White would be the guy that they would like to be the guy. Yeah.
And you bring up such a great point, and we've spoke about this in our last training camp special, was we really don't know what a Luke Getsy offense looks like because he's been multiple places. He's had completely different personnel. He has 2 different quarterbacks battling, so depending on who wins that job, it does affect what type of offense you're going to run. And as you said, I think last year in Chicago, I think a big plan was to have Justin Fields run the ball a lot and kind of a Lamar Jackson way and have a successful quarterback that can run the ball. That didn't necessarily happen. He's here now, but you brought up the offensive line. Which positions, in your opinion, are locked down, and where are the biggest question marks?
Well, I mean, you assume left tackle, right? Yeah. Colton Miller is a lockdown. He's been here the longest. He's a guy that's been very successful. Probably should have been selected to do a Pro Bowl along the way, but he hasn't. But he's been very good. But he's coming off shoulder surgery, right? So he's been on the PUP list to start camp. You assume that that's the basis is he's good to go. They signed Andre James. They re-signed Andre James in the offseason to a nice 3-year deal. So your center position is locked down. And Dylan Parham has been very good since starting right from the get-go as a rookie out of Memphis. So he's there. JPJ, the second-round pick out of Oregon, I think the assumption coming in was he was going to be a starter, but he's coming off the PUP list, right? He has not practiced yet, so you don't really know, right? Still a rookie. Right tackle is a spot that's up for grabs there. Mumford, because Colton Miller's been injured, has been practicing at left tackle, not right tackle. So it's kind of up in the air, I think, and the continuity isn't there. I do think signing the veterans, right? Andrus Pete's a 3-time Pro Bowler.
Right.
Until he started having injuries in 21, he was a very good offensive lineman in this league. Cody Whitehair has been part of Luke Getsy's offense. He was with Chicago. So that's a guy that I think is experienced in what they want to do, and he's been running with the ones because of the injuries. Yeah. So I think the positions are up for grabs. I do like the fact that there are veterans in this offensive line to help just in case those guys aren't back yet.
Do you like DJ Glaze's chances?
Well, I mean, he's certainly been running and trying that aspect, right? 3rd-round pick out of Maryland. I'm not sure. I don't know that when you draft him in the 3rd round and you bring the guys back that you had and then sign the guys you do, that the plan is that he's going to be your starter day one. But, you can't really do anything about it, what injuries bring.
Yeah, and guys, with the offensive line, we know you can have just a phenomenal player, but if they don't work together and have that time together, you're going to struggle.
Well, and we were talking
position.
about that yesterday with Lincoln Kennedy about the fact that this has to be a dance. It has to be a choreography. And if they're not and last year, the start of the season, guys were shifting across the line left and right, and they were still hurting. That's right.
They finally found their groove and the 5 that were going to gel.
And the funny part about that is they didn't really take sacks early in the season. It wasn't until the Chargers game and Khalil Mack had the 6 sacks that started to bound up. But from that perspective, they were actually pretty good last year.
Yeah.
And I think the offensive line was, remember, that was the whole conversation of training camp last year. What's this offensive line going to be? And it was actually, I think, better than people thought it was going to be. They just couldn't run the ball.
Yeah.
Agreed. And let's talk about the quarterback battle. It's the big story here at camp. It continues. And really, you hope that somebody starts to jump out here. It's almost like, all right, here we go, guys. It is time for somebody to grab this position. Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, do you get the feeling that it is the hope of the Raiders that Aiden O'Connell grabs it? You want your draft pick and a guy that has a lot of upside versus a guy that can really contribute, but maybe isn't the future as a full-time starter.
It's interesting because they came into the league kind of similar, right? You don't draft Aiden O'Connell to be your starter. You draft him because you have Jimmy Garoppolo and you assume that Aiden maybe can develop into somebody, and you draft him to be. Really, he wasn't even drafted to be the backup. He was drafted to be the 3rd guy, and he started more than half the season last year, and he started well. And Gardner Minshew was a late-round draft pick, the same thing. He wasn't drafted by Jacksonville to be a starter, but then they had injuries, and he was thrown in there, and he played well as a rookie too. And last year, if the running back who was not Jonathan Taylor for the Colts doesn't drop that football, Gardner Minshew leads the Colts to the playoffs, and we're not talking about the same thing. So
still don't know why the backup running back was target there, 4th down.
So you've got all those things going on, but they've both had in different lengths of time success in this league, although they came into the league very similarly. But to your point, Amber, you hope that someone says, this is my job, right? I'm the guy. And Antonio Pierce addressed that yesterday. He's like, we want someone to come in and be like, this is mine. And, we're 5 days of practice in, 6 days of practice in. That hasn't happened yet. That doesn't mean it won't happen, and that doesn't mean it won't happen during preseason games. Remember, last year, Aiden O'Connell, it was perfect, right? He had 1 incompletion in the first preseason game last year.
Yeah. Sometimes I think players can kind of let their games speak for themselves. In every other position, that's okay. But at the quarterback spot, sometimes you got to pronounce like, hey, you know what? For this practice and this week practice, I'm going to take over. Yeah. And that's kind of the attitude that I think Aiden has to have and start showing.
I'd add one more thing to Aiden O'Connell. And again, Gardner Minshew's, at this point, career, right? He's going into year 7, and he's been in the league a long time, and he has had success. A lot more touchdowns than interceptions. If you take out the 1 year where Jacksonville was atrocious and he was like 2-10, he's a 500 quarterback, which is a pretty serviceable, good quarterback in the league. But Aiden O'Connell last year, you finished the last 4 games, and we talked about Zamir White in the last 4. Aiden O'Connell did not have a single turnover. The offense did not have a turnover. Yeah. That is a 4-game stretch for a rookie quarterback, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and they won 3 games, all against division opponents.
Great point.
And so I have thought in this offseason that the narrative around the Raiders as a team is probably being undersold because they look at the quarterbacks and they're like, well, they didn't draft one, they didn't get one, not Kirk Cousins, none of that stuff. But I think Aiden O'Connell, if he can take that year 1 to year 2 leap, is positioned to be a good quarterback.
Yeah.
And the good thing about Aiden O'Connell is he adjusted when mistakes were made. You know, he took those 6 sacks you talk about from Khalil Mack, comes back, plays the Chargers again, doesn't take a sack. So
sets the record.
Sets the record.
Most points in Raiders franchise history.
Exactly.
35-0 at the half.
Not only that, so that shows a toughness as well and a resilience that you look for in a starting quarterback.
And remember, that was after a 3-0 loss.
That's right.
Too, right? So like
couldn't
on a
even
4
get a field
days.
goal to tie.
It really was remarkable how that turnaround was.
It does. It shows some toughness, and that's what you look for. Jason Horowitz will be calling every Raider game on the radio along with Lincoln Kennedy. We're also going to see you in the preseason. That's on TV, right?
That is correct.
We'll see you. TV guy. Who knew?
Yeah. Right. I don't have my fake glasses here in the sunshine. I should put them back on.
So what game is Jason Horowitz looking most forward to on the Raiders schedule?
So there's 2. Can I give 2?
Yes.
Is that cheating? It's cheating.
No, you can.
Go.
Okay. So one is obviously the first time you see the Chiefs, right? And part of that is because of what happened on Christmas Day last year, winning. Can they make it a rivalry again? Right. That was a statement to the league that nobody saw coming. It was on Christmas, so it was the only game, and to do it on the road without a single completion after the first quarter, back-to-back takeaways for the defense for touchdowns were huge. So that's the number 1 at the end of October. And then the Kermit the Frog thing kind of throws that into it.
It makes it fun.
Yeah, it makes it even more fun. But number 2, and this.
If the Raiders lose that one, it's like, why did they have to bring the doll out?
That's right. That's right. Who gave
wasn't there.
Who gave them a puppet?
Don't worry.
They're going to win it. They're going to win it.
The storylines heading at 8 weeks from now, or actually 11 weeks from now, are going to be so drastically different. But game 1, and I know that's kind of a cliche because you're always looking forward to the first game, but just like on Christmas Day in Kansas City, the country's not looking at that game because of the Raiders.
Yeah.
Jim Nance and Tony Romo and Tracy Wolfson aren't going. They're going there because Jim Harbaugh is the new head coach of the Chargers, and you've got Raiders-Chargers. But this is a chance for the Raiders to be like, hey, look, just like last year in Denver when everyone was focused on Sean Payton, this is our team. We're better. Antonio Pierce, this team, and go into Los Angeles and beat the Chargers in SoFi Stadium in Harbaugh's debut. I think that would be a very big statement for this team if they could do it.
All right, well, we're looking forward to it, and looking forward to hearing your voice back on Raiders broadcast.
Yes, we are.
Thanks, Jason, for being here with us.
Can we get sunglasses, though, when we're
Next
outside?
time we're going to get sunglasses. We're going to look pretty
Just
cool.
for you.
Coming up next on Raiders Training Camp Special, we are going to be talking a lot of defense. We have assistant coach Marvin Lewis coming up, also Ricky Manning Jr., the cornerbacks coach, and, we might have a special guest stopping by that's anchoring that defensive line. We'll take a look. Coming up next right here on Raiders Training Camp Special. Stick with us.
Let's go. Hey, energy. Energy, come on. Bring that energy. Let's go. Ah! Sack! 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 Yeah! Ah! Hell no. Good job, Malk. Pass! Okay, Matt. Stand up. Ah! Go! Woo! He dialed up the deep balls when I get off the field? That's crazy.
You on the field? I just threw one.
Who?
Kobe.
Kobe? Y'all set a triple team on my ass.
Exactly.
And I still almost got home. Hey.
Raiders training camp live from Costa Mesa, and Marvin Lewis is a big addition to this Raiders team. When you have a rookie head coach like Antonio Pierce, he automatically turned to you, and it's good to have you here, by the way.
Thank you.
Welcome in. So how did that all go down? Because it happens so fast with Antonio Pierce. He told me I was just hanging out. I got called into Mark Davis's office. He said, hey, you want to be the interim? Okay, I was just coaching the linebackers. So then I see why he would automatically turn to somebody like you that he was with at ASU for so long. You knew him before that. So tell me about how that all happened. How did you become the assistant head coach here?
Really speak when spoken to, Amber. That's really what it is. But no, I had the pleasure of coaching AP in 2002 in Washington.
With Washington, yeah.
And, and then the 3 seasons I spent with him at ASU. And so literally he reached out soon after, when the interim thing was going to be imminent, that, hey, when can you get here? And I was still working at ASU, so I had to kind of finish that out and had to go through another hip replacement surgery. That's what old folks go through. And but then I did a week later, literally from my surgery, I flew to Las Vegas. And but even in the time in between, immediately I was able to start watching practice every day and make comments to him and kind of the other coaches about what I saw, and then kind of look at the upcoming opponent and so forth. So, it's been a pleasure. I told him this at ASU when he was the coordinator in 21 and I was assisting him. He came in he's so smart, but he came in and he said, how am I doing?
Yeah.
And I said,
self-aware.
You know what? You're doing great. I said, now I know why you were so driven as a player watching you for these last 3 years here. And, I said, but just, sometimes you got to take some time for yourself, too, and take a deep breath.
All right. Yeah.
But that was really all I had for him.
That was the only advice.
Yes.
Yeah. Coach, let me get your mic a little closer to your mouth. There we go. Everybody wants to hear you.
Yeah. Just so much experience you have. Can you tell the Raider fans a little bit about how you started, the coaches that impacted you, looking back at where you started, and then having the opportunity to be on staff with Chuck Noll? With the Steelers at one point?
I was actually after Coach Noll, but I had the pleasure of knowing Coach Noll, which was a great pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Pittsburgh, and, literally, frankly, when I was in high school is when Coach Noll took over, and they finally turned the corner, 72, 73, where they started winning games and so forth. Yeah. But then when Bill Cowher and I played high school football against each other. Marty Schottenheimer, I grew up in the same town as Marty. Oh, wow. Bill played for Marty. Marty hired Bill. So I spent a lot of time with them between the Steeler organization. Every offseason when I would come home for vacation, Christmas, summer, whatever, I would spend time with the Steeler coaches, Coach Dungy, Tom Moore. Is
that Crafton High School?
Bill went to Carlington High School. I went to Fort Cherry.
Okay.
And we always won against Carlington, just so you know.
Because you're here now.
Yeah. But no, he knew that too. But then I was in the pleasure of being on Bill's first staff with the Steelers.
Okay.
And so just those coaches had an impact when Coach Walsh started the Minority Fellowship Program. It was in the second year of that. So then being part of the whole 49er tree, the first job I was offered in National Football League was by Coach Seifert of the 49ers. And Bill Cowher offered me the same job earlier, and then Coach Seifert offers me a job as special teams coach, and by Sunday, Bill makes it linebacker coach. I say, you got a deal.
He knew how to get you, yeah. And then fast forward after that, I had the pleasure of knowing you in Baltimore when you were on the coaching staff of the Ravens that went to the Super Bowl, one of the greatest defenses of all time. And I remember what made, everybody still focuses on Ray Lewis when they think about that, but it really was those big boys up front. And I remember Sam Adams and Goose and Rob Burnett was there as well back in the day. What similarities do you see between what the Raiders are trying to build on their defensive line here and what was one of the greatest of all time there?
I think the thing that people don't understand, you mentioned the big guys, but it was the athleticism of the big guys.
Yes.
But it was also the knowledge of the entire group. And that's the real thing that Coach Graham is stressing is, as he calls it, above-the-neck football. And he's in the third year now with these guys. Similar situation that we were in Baltimore because I got let go. We started again, and with Brian, and when Brian rehired me. So very similar situation, but teaching the guys above the schematics of what the offense is doing, and that was the thing was so smart with those guys. Like I couldn't flip a play in practice.
Right.
They would stand, Coach, they don't do that. I go, but they can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like that.
Right.
They were an extension of me out there on that field. With Rod Woodson, you mentioned.
Yeah,
Rod,
guys. I forgot about him.
Mike McCrary. We drafted the 2 young corners.
Yeah.
We signed Robert
McAllister at the time?
Dwayne Starks.
Yeah, Starks.
We signed Robert Bailey to be the nickel position, who ended up being kind of the quarterback along with Rod in the secondary.
Right. Do you see those kind of similarities from the neck up here?
Yeah,
I see the growth of Nate Hobbs. You see what Marcus Epps and Trayvon have done in the back end as safeties and their knowledge of the game. And now we're trying to bring these young corners on to help solidify the entire package. And obviously the game records, the game changers that are up front.
Right.
And then the brains of the outfit is Spillane and the linebackers and the athleticism.
Yeah.
So very similar.
Yeah.
So AP, one of the big decisions he made was to bring camp out to Costa Mesa, and one of the reasons, well, the reason is for team building and kind of being able to isolate as a group. And your experience, how does that really help a team gel together going into the preseason?
Well, because the greatest thing about the National Football League, at the end of the season, it's the best team that hoists that trophy.
Okay.
It's not the best set of individuals.
Right.
The best 11 beats the 11 best every single time.
I like that.
Those
We're
guys
gonna make the
playing
T-shirts.
together,
Let's print 'em.
That's what it's all about. And so the closer you can get as a squad and as a team, when you think the same and you see things the same way, the better you're going to be on Sunday. Because once they move that off that sideline, coaches are out of it.
Yeah. All those really competitive and good teams you had in Cincinnati. When you break camp, when do you know what type of football team you're going to have? Or is it a week-to-week thing?
Honestly, it's a week-to-week thing. But I do think there's one thing, is when you can play good defense in the National Football League and you can run the football on offense, you walk out there on that field a little bit more confident as the head man on Sundays. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to keep everything close and you're going to rely on your guys. As I would tell you, great players have to make big plays in games for us to win. That's your job. As what AP says, you got to put your cape on.
Yeah.
It's time to go put your cape on and go win the game.
Yeah.
Last question here. You saw them in pads for the first time yesterday. What are some of your takeaways from that first practice? I mean, the defense always looks better than the offense this early in camp, but also is there a player that you think could take a really big leap forward this year based on what you've seen early on?
Adam Butler.
See,
he was going.
Take that to the bank because when a coach answers that quickly, this is a man that's seen a lot of football. We should be watching Adam Butler.
Yeah, Adam Butler, Divine Diablo. To me, those two yesterday stood out as taking the next step. What their coaches have been asking them to do. That's the thing. I mean, I love Nate Hobbs so much and what he did through last season, and for him to continue to do this now. He was upset because we wouldn't let him in the 9-on-7 drill. He come running down there.
Right. Let me get in.
You'll have your time. So right away, the first time where team play comes to him, I said, look, see.
Well, Coach Lewis, it's always so good to see you. Having a chance to first meet you in the early 2000s. You have more knowledge of football in your pinky than I do, covering so many years of football. So it's so great to pick your brain and hear about this defense.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks,
all right, thanks for stopping by. Coming up next here on Raiders Training Camp Live, another coach, a former player, a man that is getting this secondary hyped up. It is Ricky Manning Jr. coming up right here on Raiders Training Camp Live. Don't go anywhere.
To be a Raider is to be bold, powerful, and loyal.
Once a Raider, always a Raider.
Raider Nation family is authentic, with the heart here in Las Vegas. We are often imitated, but can never be duplicated. Why?
The autumn wind is a Raider.
Because there is only one nation.
Welcome back to Raiders Training Camp Live, and excited to be talking to some of the position coaches. Yes. And I know this is EA's favorite because this is Ricky Manning Jr. It is the cornerbacks and defensive backs coach. And good to have you on the set, by the way. It's nice to meet you for the first time. Welcome to Las Vegas, to the Raiders. You come over from the Jets, and I feel like this is a really exciting group to be a part of. But I want to give, we're introducing you to Raider Nation. For people that don't know, you've coached some of the best. Richard Sherman, you've coached Sauce Gardner, just coming over from the Jets. Just early on, what's your assessment of the group that you have here?
Oh, I love the guys. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to be over, excited to be in the Raider Nation. I grew up a Raider fan.
Okay. Well, UCLA guy, right?
Yeah, UCLA guy. I grew up a Raider. My big cousin, Roy, gave me a Raider starter jacket hand-me-down. And ever since then, I never turned back.
So you just told me we're the same age because of starter jackets.
Yeah.
See, that's that was a 90s thing right there. We were rocking those.
But yeah, so the excitement to be back in the the black hole and the whole Raider Nation, the whole history of it, I'm excited about it. And then the guys that are in the room from all the DBs, not just the corners but the safeties as well. Just an exciting group. They're hungry, young, and they're willing to work. And I love it. They're eating up everything. So it's an exciting time and surrounded by a great group, a great staff too as well. AP did a phenomenal job of putting some of the guys that just gel well together, and we're having fun. That's the most important part. We're having fun, and we're learning, and we're growing, and it's exciting.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about that. AP has been known to have previous players as coaches. What dynamic does that bring to the coaching staff and ultimately to the players?
Excitement, excitement, just fervent fire. This game is you can't play it asleep. You got to be awake. So just like our head coach, we stay turned up.
There you go.
As former players, we can't help it. We can't help it. But to have fun and be excited, and that's a huge part of it. That's a huge part of it. Now you got to be great teachers as well, which we are. And we got some, like I said, we have some great coaches who have backgrounds like you just mentioned, coaching some great guys and come from under some great staffs with the experience, and it's awesome. It's awesome. So you got guys that played the game, that was in those white lines and in those seats. Makes a difference.
Yeah. Let's follow up on that, Amber. Like when you're a player, you've gone through your first day of pads, and a player you expect that has had an outstanding season last year, and you're playing, he's struggling maybe the first or second day. How does being a player and gone through that help you kind of communicate with someone like that?
Well, you kind of know where their mindset is at, the things that they're dealing with, because half the time it's what you're dealing with between your ears, your own head, right. And you're trying to steer them the right way, in a positive way, kind of knowing, say, hey, I know you're thinking about this right here, but just let me tell you like this, approach it this way. I know through my experiences where I've been, thinking that the guys upstairs are against me, and I approach it completely different. I'm like, look, I did it right, I did it wrong sometimes, I say when I did it the right way, this was the results of it, I went in, I grind and pulled my shoes, my boots up, and went to work. When I complained and moped, it was like, oh, you know what? Let's just go ahead and play him now.
That never happened.
It wasn't good for nobody. Right. So it's just getting in that mindset. And what I tell my players sometimes is like, it's crazy because when I go back to the things that I went through as a player, I thought it was for that moment. But really, it's for this moment right now. My intended purpose to be a coach, to be able to give back to the game that gave so much to me, to encourage and to build up the next generation of athletes. You know, so it's like, okay, all right, God, I see that. That's why you put me through that. All right, so I can be stronger for these dudes. All right, cool. I take it.
All right.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the personnel that you have. Obviously, Jack Jones gets a lot of attention because of the big plays that he made when he came over to the Raiders last year. But Nate Hobbs always catching people's attention, playing on the inside. And tell me a little bit about Jacorian Bennett, who we saw in his rookie year have some good moments learning. What are you seeing from him as well in his second year?
Oh, just hungry, hungry. He's getting better and better each and every day. All those guys are, but those guys are competing, right? They're in competition. I tell them every day it's a rep chart, not a depth chart. You know?
Oh man,
okay.
You got to go earn the spot each and every day, and they forward. That's what they want. That's what they encourage. That's what they want. But Jacorian Bennett is just getting better. He's hungry. He's always vying for information, and he can take all the information too with the little things and getting his game better. And also too, it's each one teach one. You know, it's not like, oh, coach teach me this, and he's like, hey, you know, you see Jack Jones over there helping some of the younger guys, helping D-Cam with some of his early development, whether it's technique, whether it's the playbook. It's a pretty awesome thing to see.
Yeah, when you're going against, when you have a young player like Jacorian trying to solidify his spot, then you have a guy like Faison who's a little bit of a veteran who's trying to battle. How is that competition going?
It's good. It's healthy. It's healthy. Those guys are competing for each other, and it's not in a I'm gonna get mine and get yours. It's like, hey, let's go. You know, I'm up this day, you up that day. Let's go compete.
Yeah.
You know, and let's make each other better. You know, because we're gonna need both of them. We're gonna need all of them. You know what I mean? So no matter who out there, game one, game two, we're gonna need you at some point in the season. So those guys understand that, and they're preparing like starters.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to see them guys grow, to see Jacorian Bennett grow, to see FaZe grow, to see Nate elevate this year right here for stars and for nickels positions.
Love Nate.
Yeah.
This year right here is the pivotal year for him. This is when it clicks for those nickels, and you start seeing some great things. He's the key to unlock our defense.
Right.
And he's going to allow us to do some special things as he takes command in that middle right there.
I'll tell you, the game has changed so much that the nickel is now the star. You know, like it's different than it used to be. So much focus is on that slot corner. But a sign of a good coach and a good coaching staff is how players develop, not just coming into a season, but throughout the season. And when AP took over in the middle of last season, we actually saw players develop in front of our very eyes. Malcolm Kuntz was one of them. DeCamerion Richardson, you brought up D-Cam as they call him. It's like one of the best nicknames in football. How do you approach development of a young player like that, not only in the preseason, but into and throughout a season?
You got to put the extra time in, you know, because sometimes I know as a player, it goes fast. You know, the way we look at defense as a coach and the way we study the game plan, is at a different speed than those guys, right? Especially young rookie players, right? And I know I'd be in those meetings sometimes, it's going fast. I'm like, all right.
Let me slow down a little bit.
Let me slow it down for you, you know? So, it's, you know, and then it's pulling him aside and putting extra time in and also encouraging him to get his extra time in to say, hey, look, this is what we're going through. Review it on your time, you know? You got to learn how they learn, and it helps. You know, it helps. So whether it's extra film, whether it's extra playbook stuff, whether it's a text message on a PDF, like, hey, look, this is what we're talking about when we were talking about this coverage in that meeting earlier, just to continue to help his development. And then the extra work on the field, you know. If it's 5-10 minutes pre-practice, post-practice, you got to steal that time, and it just adds up. You start stacking days and stacking extra 5-minute periods, and just builds up to continuously developing what you want out of them.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be the pivotal point, being able to get those guys to understand what you're trying to coach them and then take it on the football field. Last one for me, and I know you're from Fresno, and TP was a DB guru, and I know you got your start there. How did his coaching philosophy or style help you become a better coach?
Tony Perry, by the way.
Tony Perry, TP. Fresno, Edison, No, TP, what he did for us and what he did for me as now as a coach now is he got us to believe that we were the baddest in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I was a 5'9". I thought I was 6'1". You know what I mean? Like you couldn't tell me I couldn't cover nobody.
Yeah.
You know. And now looking back, I'm like, I didn't realize I was that little. But anyway, but that's what he did. So he encouraged. So I encourage my players. I get them to believe in themselves, and I get them to trust in our system and trust in themselves and their ability. And that's how I coach. That's how I approach. You know, I don't talk dudes down. You know, now it's gonna be some correction. Yeah. But again, we go out there with confidence and we build the players up. And that's one thing I got from TP. Like all the guys that came out of this, all the skill, you know, Robert Gold and TJ McDonald, all those guys, you couldn't tell us we weren't the baddest in the world. You know, like we were going out there.
That's the Raiders way. That's the Raiders way. That fits right in.
Fits right in.
I love that.
We want to push this thing.
Dogs.
Yeah. You see Jack Jones? He's look, I cover any. Cool. Let's go. Let's go get it. All right, let's
Coach
stay there.
Manning, it has been so much fun catching up with you and getting to know you. Best of luck in your first year here in Las Vegas.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
All right, coming up next on Raiders Training Camp Live, we are going to talk to, the back end benefits from a good front end. The heck of a front end. We're going to talk to Christian Wilkins coming up next right here. Raiders Training Camp Live from Costa Mesa.
You're listening to Upon Further Review. I'm your host, Eddie Pascal.
Good morning, Raider Nation.
Welcome to Raiders Roundtable. JT along with Eddie Pascal.
He dissects the play quickly and makes the move to the football.
Welcome back to Raiders Training Camp Live, and the fans that are watching, Raider Nation, are very excited about this man right here. Christian Wilkins joins us now. It's our final guest. I don't know why. Maybe it's just having that big body in the middle of the line to get people going here, especially Raider Nation that likes dogs, and you definitely are one of them. How was your first couple days in pads?
First of all, appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate that. But it's been good. It's been good just to, get back to football, really. Off season, the OTAs, and early part of training camp, you're just getting acclimated, kind of getting your feet wet, but it's good to get back in pads and really let it feel like football, you know what I mean?
Hitting somebody feels good.
Exactly. And even, getting those bumps and bruises and all that, it's part of the process, and that's what I try to encourage to the young guys. It's just part of the steps of getting where you want to go, so just embrace it, embrace the grind of training camp, embrace the suck. Let's get to work, so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about that grind, I always like to ask guys, in the offseason, obviously, you always want to work on something. You're a great player, but no matter, there's always something you can work on. What did you work on in the offseason, and has it started to show up already?
Yeah, absolutely. You always want to be a well-balanced, complete player. So just continue to improve on the things I'm good at, in the run technique, striking, being a technician. That's something I want to continue to harp on and be good at and continue to develop, but also just continue to develop my pass rush ability, just lateral quickness, things like that. And, just my overall knowledge of the game.
Yeah.
You can't be a successful defensive player if you don't know your defense inside and out, and then you can't, it's easier to stop an offense when you know what they're trying to do or how they're trying to attack your defense. So continue to develop your knowledge of the game, and that'll, your whole football IQ. So, yeah.
Do you know anytime you talk to any of AP's teammates from those Giants teams that were on offense? I know like Sean O'Hara is a friend of mine. He would tell me the one thing about AP, like in practice, he always knew what I was doing, and that's what made him different. And have you ever spoken to AP about that?
Yeah, no, and I hear that a lot. Like, there's, like you said, pretty much everyone who's been around him kind of said how smart of a player he was, and that's definitely important. You want to know your stuff as well as their stuff, so you can play faster and just, develop that whole football IQ like I was talking about. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, like we talked to Marvin Lewis, and again, when you talked about a guy who has experience and knowledge, what is it like having coaches around like that who have so much experience that you can kind of lean on? Yeah, that's huge. Because just any questions you may have, anything that comes up, you always got someone to talk to, and they've seen enough football, a lot of football, and they've been around the game so much. So you're just always trying to pick up on little things here and there. Just you really you talk to any of our coaches who've been around for a while, it's like almost like whenever I talk to them, it's like I'm interviewing them, just trying to pick up as much knowledge of the game, or just asking little things like that. So I think that's real good and real nice to have around. Yeah.
Being back in Patrick Graham's system, 2019, you were with him with the Dolphins, so you know him, but seeing him here in Vegas and then the talent that he has, what can you tell us about just being reunited?
No, it's been great, honestly. Just seeing his development, too, as a defensive coordinator and as a coach, it's been great to see, because I had him, it was his first year as a D coordinator as well, and there's just been so much growth within him that
How's
I just love to be. Just even just little things, just his confidence, just how he commands a room, just he just really loves ball too, so he's always in the lab, he's always working on the game, always trying to find ways to allow us to play good football and good defense, and I love that, and just the energy he brings is great. So it's just fun to be around, and when your coach has energy, accountability, you kind of adopt that as a player. You know what I mean? You got to bring the energy every day. You got to take ownership and accountability into your job and your responsibilities, and always work on your game, because he's working on his, and he's demanding that of the other coaches as well.
You know what? One thing that people may not understand is no matter how good you are, when you're transitioning, going from one team to another, it's a whole different identity, a whole different kind of situation you're in. How has that transition been for you?
Absolutely. It's definitely a transition. It's definitely an adjustment. Just even, you build up I'm a really routine guy, and I'm a really process-based guy. So, you kind of have your routine, your process, and your steps, and you build that where you are. Right. So just little things like that you got to try to figure out. But it's been great, because I've just been able to adapt as fast as possible. And, the team has been great. The organization's been great. My guys on the team have been awesome as well with that, just helping me with the transition as well. But it's also good, too, because I don't have as many distractions. I'm I'm an all-ball, football all the time kind of guy. So coming out here, there's not a lot of people I don't know outside, none of that. So I'm just football, and I go home, and that's the way I like it. So.
Is this the first time you've been away for camp? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Never done that before. I've always been on site, so that's different as well. And I kind of like that, again, just being around the guys, being in the hotel together, forced to hang out, watch the fight together, whatever it is. You got to be around those guys, and it's good, again, for me being a new guy, just getting to know guys a little bit better. Yep.
I'm sure, you already being in the AFC, but coming to the AFC West, all eyes are on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Absolutely.
And being able to stop Patrick Mahomes. This is a man that thrives when he scrambles and when he extends plays. That's kind of where the Mahomes magic happens. As far as being a defensive front, how do you guys think you have the formula, especially with the pass rush and the with Malcolm and Max coming off the edge, to really help not just yourselves and getting some sacks, but the secondary, as far as being able to add that pressure so that they don't have to cover that long?
Yeah. I think we're just out here every day grinding and just trying to build a rapport within each other, and just build confidence, just within each other, so that we can go out there on Sundays and play good ball. There's a lot of little things we can learn and do now to be able to win those games, and play well in games come the fall, and when the games actually count and actually matter. So we're just trying to build it each and every day, and and you just grind and lock in, and then we'll see what happens when we.
You didn't answer about the pass rush. I think he's just trying to not talk about Patrick Mahomes.
Have you started to get gifts from the cornerbacks? Because
gifts.
Because I tell you, what I used to do is like in training camp, camp, I would hand the guy, his favorite little snack or whatever.
No,
I need that pass rush.
No,
so I don't have to cover for long.
So there has been a little bit of that. Like,
there you go.
And so, like, in a sense, like, if we're ever in their room or we ever got to, do little things like that, they ain't ever tripping if we got to go in there. And, they just say, hey, do you, big dog? It's all love. It's good energy. So I appreciate that for sure.
We appreciate a member of the secondary that knows that the front end helps the back end.
That's right. That's
hey, Christian, it's so great to have you in Las Vegas. I know fans are so excited to see you, and thanks for stopping by the set.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, thank you for having me, and I'm just ready to do it.
You're welcome anytime, man. That's your chair.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
If it doesn't break
make sure it's sturdy. Give me a more sturdy one. Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot, Christian. All right, that is going to do it for us here at Raiders Training Camp. Episode 2 has been so much fun. Special thanks to Coach Marvin Lewis.
Yep.
Also, we had Ricky Manning Jr. on, so it has been a lot of fun to do it. So always fun to hang out with you, EA.
All right.
All right, we'll see you soon, too.
Good deal.